Esther saved her people without ever leaving a palace. She was a young Jewish woman in a foreign empire who risked everything to speak up. Her story is often seen as a beauty pageant fairy tale, but it is really a bold rescue in disguise. Let's break it down. The background. The Book of Esther takes place in the Persian Empire during the reign of King Xerxes I, also called Ahasuerus, around the 5th century BC. Many Jews were living in exile, far from Jerusalem, trying to survive and keep their identity under foreign rule. Esther, also called Hadassah, was an orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, Esther 2:7. When Queen Vashti refused the king at a royal feast, she was removed from her position. To find a new queen, officials gathered young women from across the empire and brought them into the royal harem for a long process of preparation. This was not a romantic contest. It was a system where women had little choice and great risk. Esther was taken into this world and, at Mordecai's advice, kept her Jewish identity secret. Esther 2:10. She found favor with the people around her and with the king himself. Eventually, she was chosen as queen, yet still living as a minority with a hidden past in a powerful but dangerous court. In Persia, a royal decree sealed with the king's signet could not be reversed. Esther 8:8. Approaching the king without being called could lead to death unless he extended his gold scepter. Esther 4:11. This is the world Esther had to navigate. High beauty and high politics, easy honor and sudden danger. The conflict, key events. The story turns when Mordecai uncovers a plot to assassinate the king and tells Esther, who reports it in Mordecai's name, Esther 2:21-23. The men are stopped and the event is recorded. But Mordecai receives no reward, at least not yet. Soon after, a powerful official named Haman rises and demands everyone bow to him. Mordecai refuses, likely because he will not honor a man in a way that belongs to God. Esther 3:2-4. Haman burns with anger and decides not just to punish Mordecai, but to wipe out all the Jews in the empire. Haman casts lots, called pur, to pick the date of destruction. Esther 3:7. He persuades the king to issue a decree allowing the killing of every Jewish person, young and old, on a single day. Sealed by the king's ring, the order spreads across the empire like a shadow. Mordecai tears his clothes and mourns in public, then sends a message to Esther to plead for her people. Esther 4:1-8. Esther answers with a hard truth. Anyone who approaches the king uninvited could die, and she has not been summoned for 30 days. Esther 4:11. The risk is real. Mordecai replies with words that echo through history. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4:13-14. Esther chooses courage. She asks Mordecai to gather all the Jews to fast for 3 days. She will go to the king, saying, "If I perish, I perish." Esther 4:15-16. On the 3rd day, Esther steps into the throne room, uninvited. The king sees her and extends the scepter. She lives, but she does not make a hasty demand. Instead, she invites the king and Haman to a private banquet. At the first banquet, the king asks what she wants, offering even half the kingdom. Esther asks them to come again to a second banquet. This pause is not fear, it is wisdom and timing. Meanwhile, Haman, proud and angry at Mordecai, builds a gallows to hang him. Esther 5:9-14. That night, the king cannot sleep. He asks for the royal records and hears the story of Mordecai saving his life. Realizing Mordecai was never honored, the king asks Haman how to reward a man the king delights to honor. Esther 6:1-6. Thinking the honor is for himself, Haman suggests a grand parade. The king commands Haman to honor Mordecai. Haman is humiliated. At the second banquet, The king again asks Esther for her request. Esther finally speaks. "Spare my life and my people, for we are sold to be destroyed." Esther 7:3-4. When the king asks who would do such a thing, Esther points to Haman. The king storms out, returns to a desperate Haman, and orders him executed on the very gallows he built for Mordecai. Esther 7:7-10. But the decree against the Jews still stands. Persian law cannot be revoked. So the king authorizes a new decree that allows the Jews to defend themselves on the appointed day. Esther 8:11. When that day comes, the Jews stand, fight, and survive. Their grief turns to joy. Purim becomes a yearly celebration of God's hidden rescue, named after the lots Haman cast. Esther 9:20-22. Mordecai rises to high office. Esther's courage becomes law and memory, a reminder that one hidden woman, at the right time, in the right place, can change everything. The meaning lesson. In its original setting, Esther is about survival, identity, and providence. God's name is never mentioned in the book, yet his hand is everywhere. Chance meetings, sleepless nights, perfectly timed requests. This is the quiet choreography of a God who works behind the scenes. In the Jewish world of Jesus' time, Purim was already a celebration of last-minute deliverance. The story taught that even under foreign rule, God preserves his people. Courage and wisdom together can overturn evil plans. For us today, Esther challenges how we use influence. She did not grasp for power, but she did not hide behind comfort either. She embraced risk for the sake of others. She also models strategic courage. She fasts before she acts. She enters the room with respect. She speaks plainly at the right moment. Courage is not panic. It is patient obedience. There is also a message about identity. Esther lived between two worlds, Persian palace and Jewish people. She began hidden, but she could not stay hidden. True identity requires costly honesty. And for Christians, Esther's courage points forward to Jesus, the ultimate advocate. Esther risked her life to stand before a flawed king. Jesus gave his life to stand before the throne for us. Esther secured a temporary rescue for her people. Jesus secured eternal rescue for all who trust him. Here are 3 quick takeaways. Courage is doing the right thing at the right time, even when fear screams no. Influence is stewardship, not status. You are placed where you are for more than yourself. God is at work even when he seems silent. Hidden does not mean absent. So what does this look like on Monday morning? Speak up for the person no one defends. Use your position, at school, at work, in your family, to bring protection and peace. Prepare with prayer and fasting. Ask God for timing and words. Do not despise small faithfulness. Mordecai's unrewarded act seemed to be forgotten, until a sleepless night made it the hinge of the story. Your unseen obedience may be the seed of tomorrow's breakthrough. And do not confuse delay with denial. Esther waited through 2 banquets. Waiting gave space for the truth to surface and for pride to unravel. Sometimes waiting is the bravest part of courage. Finally, remember the gallows. Evil often builds its own downfall. Haman's plan became his trap. When you stand with truth and mercy, you are aligning with a reality deeper and stronger than any scheme. God's justice and care for his people. So who was Esther? An orphaned exile turned queen, who chose hidden fasting, wise timing, and public courage to save her people. Her life whispers a promise. When you trust God in the silence and use your voice for others, deliverance can break into the world. For such a time as this.